is what is visual culture? And so to me, um, the way I would define visual culture is it's limitless and it has no boundaries. And for someone to try and put boundaries on visual culture or what we would call art, it's almost counterproductive. I believe that art and visual culture is something that anyone and everyone can partake in, and I think that everyone is an artist. Um, I think that I think that it involves every aspect of the world is beauty and art, and it sounds corny and cheesy, but I think that actually I think everything is art, and from my curtains, just the way that they are designed, um, and even and like nature. Leaves are, I think, the best piece of art that there really is. I think that what the world really needs is they need less people judging art. I think that it's weird. I'm going into the curatorial program, which is all about critical thinking and really looking at art and judging it. And I don't think that that is the I don't think that that's what we should do. I think that we should totally just accept everything and see the beauty in it. Um, I think I think anyone can participate in being an artist. I was having this conversation with some people that I live with the other night over dinner, and I think that really everyone has the potential to be an artist. And I think everyone is born with the same amount of potential, but it all depends on like how they utilize this talent that they've been given. I think that everyone has it, and I think everyone. I just don't think that everyone uses it, and I think the people who recognize their potential and they push themselves. Those are the more successful artists. And sorry, drinking out of a measuring cup. I think I think that um, art school, as much as I love OCAD, I think that art school it's quite elitist. There's so like I think a lot of people think that art school OCAD is so open and so welcoming, and everyone's eccentric, so everyone fits in. But that's not the case at all. Actually, I find that there are different levels, like everywhere. There are different levels of like people being comfortable in their situations and their surroundings, and those are the people who I see excelling socially, and and that's why I don't agree with the social aspect of the school, and I'm not going to get into it, but I think that I think it needs to be more focused on the art and no group work. I think that I think artists need to develop themselves personally before that they can work in a group and collaborate their ideas, because I think a lot of people, I mean myself included, they come to OCAD and they don't quite know what they want to do. I mean they understand that that's the field that they want to go into. They want to be an artist, but they don't know themselves well enough, especially if they're fresh out of high school, like myself. I think there are a lot of people at OCAD who come back after taking years off, mature students. I know this one woman who has like a little boy, and she's gone through the whole career of being a professional dancer, and I think that's what you really need to do in order to know who you are and succeed at somewhere like OCAD. You can't come to OCAD fresh faced, bushy eyed bushy tailed, and I don't know the phrase. I had it yesterday. I actually said it yesterday. Anyway, that's beside the point. Back to the subject of visual culture, though. I think that visual culture is like life, basically. Or that's the way I see it. Maybe as an artist, I have a different view on visual culture, but it takes over my life. It is my whole life, and And I think that everything in the world is like a visual culture is encompassing the whole world, and I think that that's what the world needs to be more like. More people need to see that that visual culture is what art surrounds us, and we need to see the beauty in it. And I think that's what I think about what visual culture is. There was part 2 of the question, and what is representation, and how can you relate it? I think that's what it was. It was how would you define the term representation, and how can you connect it to images? And I think everything has different representation, and I think the question is not what is representation. It is necessarily, it's more what is the perception? Like I think the question is more dealing with perception rather than representation, because things can be represented in a certain way but perceived in a completely different way. Someone can, put out a piece of their art or a photo of theirs, and and hope that people take it for what they want, maybe positive, negative, maybe a social commentary on politics, what have you. But an artist does art, and they have expectations for their art, and that's their representation in their art. But not everyone, I won't see it the same way as, Joe sees it. I won't see it the same. And I think that's really interesting about what representation is, and I think that's why visual culture is all around us, and I think that's what makes it so beautiful, is that visual culture is all around us, but we all experience it in completely different ways. I can look at a photo, like, say, I was reading the Practices of Looking, and it was really interesting to read, especially the first chapter about, representation and kind of meanings and this, semiotics of things. Just, for example, this photo, I don't know if you can see it, this one, I thought it was really interesting. It's obviously a social comment on history, but I guess it wasn't really a social comment on history at the time, because it's a present photo, or it was taken at the present time. And I just think it's really interesting to see that whoever took this photo, Robert Frank, he had an idea about what he wanted to portray, and that was what he represented. He represented the black man in a working class setting, uniform. He's wearing like a work shirt. He looks like he just got off work from working in the fields or something like that. And then there's children in the middle. They look completely confused. They don't understand the world. One of them is even crying. And then there's a very stern-looking woman at the front who almost looks like she's pretty upset that her photo's even being taken. And so, I don't know, I think it's the representation and how it connects to images. I think everything is connected. I don't know, maybe I'm just like a spacey hippie, but I think everything's interconnected, and I think that the way things are represented directly relates to how they're perceived. And I mean, I don't know if that's anything new. I don't think it can't be, because it seems so commonplace to be, completely related, but that's the way I see it. And I think that, a lot of people need to look deeper into things, and they need to, critically think about things before taking them at face value. I think the incident about the ROM with a guy named Toady, I think that the whole thing is about representation and perception, and critical thinking, and I think that that's what needs to, everything that he touched on needs to be touched on again. Maybe not in that fashion, but I think that he really brought light to the table. Uh, like in terms of visual culture, he brought light to a bigger, more more in-depth subject that it needs to be brought up more, more shallow. It's shallow, but it needs to be touched on again. Maybe not in that fashion, but I think that he really brought light to the table.